If I'm going to do a video about 9/11, it's important that I properly begin by telling you that nothing we were going to do was going to change the events of that day.
This type of speculation has led to many outrageous claims, such as those by William Dudley Pelley, the leader of a Nazi organization in the United States in the 1930s called the Silver Legion, based on the work of British Israelite David Davidson, who was a member of the Silver Legion. Pelley performed his own pyramid calculations and announced that the Jews would be destroyed on September 17, 2001. A prediction that seems a little startling today when we remember the attacks that took place a week earlier on September 11, 2001.
William Dudley Pelley wrote that sometime in the late 1930s. 9/11 was, and always has been, an eventuality of quantum consciousness. Welcome to Disclosure 15, 9/11 and Angels and Airwaves, Mass Ritual. Tom DeLonge made it very clear in a recent interview that we are involved in a proxy war. A war, I might point out, that almost no one on planet Earth is aware of.
That the universe is teeming with life, and their influence on this planet over thousands of years has led us to this point. And it might not be, and I'm throwing out Easter eggs here, it might not be for good reason. You know, it might be for self-interest of other players that are competing amongst themselves. Makes you wonder if we're in a big proxy war or not, you know? And that's kind of the way I view this, that if the universe is as big as we all know it to be, and it's full of so many things, and it's full of dimensional realities that we don't totally understand yet, then stands a great chance that, you know, their influence on us is no different than our influence on small little islands and tribes as we were growing as a country.
Like the indigenous tribes of the Pacific, we were unaware that a war was afoot on 9/11 when shots were fired, and we, like the Pacific tribes, tried to grasp what was happening. I'm going to play a clip from A Fire Within Part 2 of the historical fiction Secret Machines Project. So, spoiler alert. Here is cow mutilations and crop circles put in proper context.
Grinnell shook his head. "Look at this," he said, nodding again to the filigree artistry in the wheat. "Stunning, isn't it? It's intelligent creativity, and it contains a message for us, even if it's one we struggle to comprehend. I look at this, and I feel peace. I feel like something is watching over us. It might not understand who we are, what we are, but it wants to reach out to us, to offer us something remarkable. And it does so in this indirect and sophisticated way, like the fractals of a snowflake. Does this feel like the Stiles farm, which drove Josh Harrop to blow his foot off, and Jimbo Stiles to run mad with a panic so acute it has wiped the incident from his brain entirely? Does it feel like the nightmare that sent Emily Swainson wandering blindly in the woods, her mind so totally blown that she couldn't figure out how to get out or keep herself alive? Do the horrors of that night feel the same as this? All that clinical savagery, the meticulous barbarism of their invisible knife work, was it driven by the same sense of purpose as this? "What are you saying?" asked Joe Sanderson, turning to face him, feeling the urgency in the other man. "That the cattle mutilations and the crop circles are coming from similar but different sources with different agendas?" "Different agendas, different plans, a wholly different sense of who we are and what we are worth," said Grinnell, his eyes intense, his voice low.
There were two players on 9/11. The first players were quantum consciousness. Cold, calculated, almost machine-like. So much so, they used machines to accomplish their goals. The second players were Tom DeLonge's Angels and their Airwaves. They didn't use machines to counter the attack. They used hearts and minds. There's a subtle elegance to the Angels and their Airwave strategy. 11 in numerology is a master number. All numbers get added together until there are no double digits except 11. If you get to 11, you're done. It's considered the most spiritually connected number. 9/11 itself was an 11. The first plane to hit the World Trade Center was American Airlines Flight 11. A is the first letter of the alphabet, making AA another form of 11, and in particular, turning the flight into 1111. American Airlines Flight 11 had 92 souls on board. 9/11, American Flight 11, with 92 lives at World Trade Center 1. The Angels had nothing to do with American Airlines Flight 11 crashing into the World Trade Center. They did, however, ask whomever first numbered that route, perhaps years earlier, if they would voluntarily number this route American Airlines Flight 11. American Airlines Flight 11 was the initiation of a ritual magic. The second stage of the ritual involved invoking a spirit deity. Aleister Crowley, the famous occultist, wrote that the number 175 is the number used to signify and invoke a ritual. Flight 175, invoking Liber 175, stating the intent and purpose of the operation, invoking and uniting. That it was a united flight should now make far more sense. There were 65 lives on board. The Twin Towers themselves represented an 11 and were ritual symbols of the twin pillars of Hermes, something used as a tool in ritual magic. Important to this story is that both planes were Boeing 767s. I'll come back to that near the end. At 8:20 a.m. Eastern, American Airlines Flight 77 left Dulles International Airport. John Foster Dulles, for whom the airport was named after, was the 52nd Secretary of State, a 7 in numerology. His brother Alan Dulles led the official cover-up of the Kennedy assassination within the Warren Commission. The last time 77 was important to a Dulles in a tragedy, John F. Kennedy had just been shot in the head. As Kennedy was rushed away, he passed under Highway 77 in Dallas, Texas. A synchronicity occultists recognized at the time as a ritual act. Flight 77 would eventually be credited with hitting the Pentagon. Both the Pentagon and Dulles International Airport lie within the 77th Meridian Line, and the Pentagon is 77 feet high. John F. Kennedy was the 7th president to die in office, and the last. The groundbreaking ceremony of the Pentagon occurred September 11th, 1941. Flight 93 was a freedom flight. There were 44 souls on board, a very rare number in numerology. The passengers of this flight did something special. They stood up and said, "Let's roll." There were no additional victims of that flight. Like Flight 77, Flight 93 was a Boeing 757. In fact, all planes on 9/11 were Boeing aircraft. We'll get to that in a moment. At 5:20 p.m., World Trade Center 7, a building which had burned for hours, did something that no other steel frame building had ever done in history. It collapsed in on itself at near free fall speed.
Oh my God.
SK Bain writes that historical accounts of the twin pillars of Hermes say that they were located on the porch of King Solomon's temple. Building 7 was known as the Solomon Brothers Building. There were 47 floors in Building 7. Angels and Airwaves is an important concept to grasp. The angels didn't cause 9/11. 9/11 was going to happen. They did, however, like the fractals of a snowflake, perform a mass ritual of awakening, leaving fractal evidence like a snowflake, so you would know with confidence that on 9/11, all souls were loved and accounted for. They show us in an indirect and sophisticated way, with patterns, like the patterns in wheat. How confident am I of this thesis? I'm willing to bet the whole war on it. There is so much more to say about 9/11, but out of honor for those who sacrificed, I'm just going to leave it right here. The war is over. Peace.